Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll call our council meeting of January the 24th to order at 6 o'clock. I'd like to welcome Ed Velbloom, who will be joining us for a closed session discussion very shortly. We will begin our meeting with a reading of our land recognition, and Councillor Allen is going to do that this evening. Heather, are you able to screen share that? Go ahead, Mark, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Mayor Taylor. It is with honor that I read this land recognition this evening. So we would like to begin by acknowledging the township of Otonabee-South Monaghan is located on the traditional territory of the Mississauga peoples. These are Treaty 20 and Williams Treaty lands. We encourage everyone to educate themselves on the details of these documents and the influence of our First Nations in Canada's history. The Council of Otonabee-South Monaghan recognize these contributions and commit to the actions which demonstrate respect for the environment in keeping with the First Nation tradition. Reflects the security of the next 7 generations.
Thank you, Mark. Before we start, I'll just remind everybody to please keep yourselves on mute. And then, of course, the challenge is to remember to take yourself off mute if you are going to be speaking. I have no announcements this evening, so we'll move down to disclosure of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest from any members of council with the issues we'll be discussing tonight? The clerk will note there is no disclosures. As I said earlier, we will be moving into closed session in accordance with the Municipal Act, Section 239, brackets 2F, solicitor-client privilege. I would like a motion, please, that we move into closed session for that reason. Deputy Mayor Clark and Councillor Allen. All in favor? Carried. Heather, you stop the recording? Recording. Okay, welcome everyone. We are now out of closed session and we will resume our regular meeting. You have the, first of all, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda that we have tonight for tonight's meeting? Seeing none, could I get a motion, please, to adopt this agenda for tonight's meeting? I'm seeing Councillor Powers and Deputy Mayor Clark. All in favor? That's carried. That's the agenda that we will use. There are no minutes. There are no delegations. We're going to move right down now to staff reports 13.1, which is a 2021 highlight summary, and I'll turn it over to our CAO. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So again, it's relatively self-explanatory. Typically, what we like to do at the beginning of a calendar year is give the council a bit of a brief summary of the things that had occurred in 2021. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there, and certainly we're quite proud of what had achieved in that particular time. And there's a summary there. And Mr. Mayor, if anybody has any questions, then I'd be pleased to answer them.
There, I almost did it. Thank you. Any questions from members of council to the CAO on this summary report? If for information purposes only, if there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion to receive it. Councillor Howie, Councillor Allen, all in favor? That is received. Thank you. Okay, 13.2 is the community safety and well-being plan. Greg, I think you were going to lead the way in this one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is another one of the projects that have been taking place, and it's a requirement of the Police Services Act, as the report says, for us to have a community safety and well-being plan. And so there's been a few initiatives taking place. It started out with the local townships. I got the initiative for our area sort of transferred into the city. And it's sort of grown exponentially. And so that's caused a little bit of concern amongst some of the local townships, where we have until, again, July in order to have our community safety and well-being plan done. And so there was a conversation between the CAOs of OSM, Asphodel, Norwood, and Cavan Monaghan. And so we have, so what we would like to be able to do is we think it's a pretty straightforward process. We'd like to continue on with the process with doing our, I guess, our own version of the plan. We have done some research. Several communities have done that. And so we thought that our residents would be, I think, a little bit better served by us, doing a lower level plan rather than a higher level plan. And so that is that's what the report says here. And so we wanted to make sure that council was aware that this was an initiative that was going to be taking place cooperatively within the 3 townships in order to meet that requirement. So if there's any questions, Mr. Mayor, I'd certainly be pleased to answer them.
Thank you, Greg. And just to kind of summarize for council, and I'll ask Heather to confirm this. Initially, the community safety and well-being plan that was going to be incorporated between the city of Peterborough and quite a few of the townships and a bunch of organizations. First of all, my understanding is it will not meet the July 1st, 2022 deadline, has already been determined. And there's 30 some people on the committee. Heather, is that correct?
Yes, Mayor Taylor.
Right, and hence probably the reason why it just can't meet this deadline. It's with COVID and so forth. It's just been impossible to get any work done with a committee that large. So that's why Greg's recommendation, a couple other townships have decided just to do a much smaller one amongst ourselves. And is it the expectation, Greg, with you and the other townships, the 2 townships you're working with, that we could meet this July 1st deadline?
We had I guess, an initial planning session amongst the townships this week. And yes, I think we can meet those particular expectations for the July the 1st of 2022. But the other piece is that I think we want to make it so that there are some meaningful activities and initiatives that are going to take place within the townships that meet our requirements around community safety and well-being, that we want to be able to put in place and not lose sight of that. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Powers, I think I saw your hand up. Go ahead, Nick.
Thanks, Mayor Taylor. Just a question to Greg. With the smaller group, how are we ensuring that we're getting input from the various other groups that do have valuable input into our community safety and well-being plan?
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Powers, that's a really great question. So part of what we're going to be doing is doing a series of community surveys, and each of the communities that are involved in the partnership will take a part of that. So we will be going out and surveying some of the stakeholders, depending on the agency that contribute to these particular items. And so that's how we would gather the data and get those recommendations back in to the actual plan itself.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Clark, you have your hand up, Bonnie. Go ahead.
Yes, through the mayor. So we will be certainly reaching the provincial mandate on this by going through with the 3 groups. I did sit in on some of the community collaboration. I think as possibly some of the staff did as well. I don't want to lose sight of that. I think there was some valuable information gleaned from those groups. Could you send council in the much following up from Councillor Powers, the groups that you are reaching out to as the stakeholders for our communities? I'm very interested in that.
Mr. Mayor, we can do that with council because, as I said, we've not established our surveying instruments. So this is still pretty early days. We just had this conversation with the three communities last week.
Perhaps, Greg, at the next meeting would be good if it could be arranged. If not, a meeting after that, an update would be in order on exactly what you're doing, who you're doing it with, how the timelines are looking. I don't know, Council, and I'll ask Heather on this. We're supposed to have this in place for a police service board, to approve. We're supposed to have it in place by the 1st of July, but the province is in the process of reconfiguring police service boards. So I just don't know how all this is going to work out. I really have no idea. I don't know if the July 1st deadline is terribly important, because I have a feeling the province isn't going to have their new police service boards in place by then. If they are, they've got an awful lot of work to do in a short period of time. Heather, do you have any further insight on that?
No, not at this point, but right now the drop down date is July 1st. So, we are expected to have it in place by then. So whether the province changes that, that's yet to be seen.
We talked today about items of discussion at our next PSB meeting. Perhaps this one should be on it also. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead, Bonnie.
Yes, and to that point, it's not going to be in place for the larger group with the city and county. I mean, that's already been established.
Correct. Yes, and so I don't know what the implications of that are. I have no idea. Probably none. Any further questions to our CAO on this? Greg can provide an update to council about how this is moving along. If not, I'd like, please, just a motion to receive the report. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Powers, all in favor? Carried. Greg, you didn't want any motions coming out of that direction, did you?
No, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that that was sort of a bit of a mid-course correction and change, and that our goal, so we hope to be, like I said, we want to have it done. And I'm not sure whether we'll get back to you for the February 7th meeting. We only have one meeting in February, so it might be the first meeting in March before we.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, speaking of mid-course correction, that will bring us to our next topic on the agenda. And our CAO has a report on the official plan review. And I will turn it back over to Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, going through this particular report, so council is aware that at the county council meeting of last Wednesday, the draft of the official plan for the county was presented, and there still becomes, I guess, a decision point for us as a community and as a council. There were several comments and queries that, as the report says, that were made to were made to me as the CAO and other members, other staff members as well, and about our particular role within the township within the county official plan. We are. It's a big decision. The report came to council in March of 2019, recommending that we join that particular group. There's been a lot of things that have happened since 2019. And so, at that particular juncture, when the report came forward, as I, would state to council that I was very early in my tenure here as a CAO, some 20 days in, when that report came forward. Council was very early in their term, about 120 days in. And because of the queries that had come forward, really wanted to put forward an opportunity. As a council, we've not had any discussion really about this. There were members of the county planning department came before our council on the 22nd of November of 2021. But we really hadn't had a conversation about this, and really there are some options that for us that we need to I think we need to discuss. We have a solid, we're one of the few municipalities in the county. We have a very solid and fulsome official plan of our own that was recently updated in 2015. So it is relatively current, and our policies are current. And so for us, we rely and have relied on several years about us having our own standalone local official plan. That plan is, I guess, is where the first instance of decision making under the Planning Act resides here within our township, and that would change by going into a county plan. The other, I guess, a couple of other notable things for our conversation and discussion is really the town. There are not many examples of just only county level plans in the province. There's 3 that was put forward, and that would be the County of Hastings, the County of Wellington, and the County of Renfrew. And all other counties in the province, and this is counties, not regional governments, counties, have a 2-level plan where there's a local OP and a county OP. Regardless, that with the local planning provisions in there for a local OP, if we are to look at an amendment of our own official plan that currently exists, it has to be consistent with the county OP and the policies of the county OP, and has to be approved by the county OP. And that provision's been in place for since the initiative around the Planning Act. If we continue to go in and we fold our position into the county plan, our role as a township changes, and that role becomes a stakeholder rather than a decision maker of first instance. And so we lose a little bit of that decision making for the local resident being able to come before the council. So there's some considerations that council needs to understand around the nuances related to the county official plan and our local plan. So the last thing I'll say, and which was issued in the report, is that we had been putting contributions aside to update our own official plan. So we have the resources to do that. It would be a relatively straightforward process in order to do those things. Timing, and it says in the report, the timing is that the county must get their official plan into the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for approval prior to the 1st of July of 2022. So they're going to start, they've just issued their draft plan last week. So they have to go through the whole community consultation process, the township consultation process. If we, the timing for the township, if the township decided to just update our own official plan, the timing for us means that our process would have to be complete by July the 1st of 2023. So there's some additional time for us to go forward and do that particular process. And as well, we would have to, as the report said, we'd have to issue an RFP for consulting services to do that update. So, but I can say compared to some of our municipal neighbors here in Peterborough County, we are in solid shape with respect to our official plan, and it is one of the newer plans in place. I guess the last thing I'll say is that this discussion also happened today in Cavan Monaghan. And in Cavan Monaghan, they made a decision to maintain their own local official plan, and that they would be looking to opt out of the county official plan. So that's sort of I guess a genesis of the report and sort of why we're here. And I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor. And if we have any questions, and I see we have our junior planner with us, and we also have Kent Randall, who is our consulting planner, as I see is also on the screen here, Mr. Mayor. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Good, thank you, Greg. And I'll just emphasize for council's consideration that we do not have to make a decision one way or the other that we're not ready for or comfortable with. This is a big decision. I mean, I'll tell you, council, I know which way I would decide on it, but if other members of council want more information, more time, or whatever, you need something, you're not ready to make a decision, you don't have to. And don't let anybody from the county or the province or the township try to convince you otherwise, because that's not correct. So I'm going to open it up now to questions to our CAO or one of our two planners that are on the screen. I think Councillor Allen, I saw your hand up, did I? Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Taylor. So I have a few questions, I believe, and first I wanted to begin by although it may not be a model that we see around the province, I think our township has shown a few times in the last several years that we're not afraid to go against the grain, and we came out with we have a few models around fire and on-farm diversified use and secondary suites that we were some of the first out of the gate. So that doesn't necessarily persuade me to change the direction as to where we had decided 3 years ago. So I'm thinking back to those conversations that led us down this road. And I had the question around, and it's been asked a couple of times, and Greg's alluded to a $50,000 contingency, presuming that's for planning, consulting around the preparation of what would be our own official plan, if that was the case. The question I had was, is there over the past 3 years with the TAC, the work that's been done with the county, what has the cost sharing model been there? Because my understanding was that essentially, I mean, obviously it comes through our levy or what portion the county requires from each township, but there hasn't been necessarily a cost sharing model, or is there a cost sharing model that where we're actually paying for consulting work or county work that's being done on our behalf directly? And is there and I think, is there a cost or a fee structure that is accompanied with this where we would, in turn receive a share of the cost to file an official plan with our official plan amendment with the county if we were to go down that road?
Mr. Mayor, I can respond to those questions to Councillor Allen. And really, there have been, that I'm not privy to how much money the county has spent on this particular initiative, right?
Right.
That would be best a question asked of the county. But there has been a considerable investment made by the county in this particular initiative. So as I can allude to, is that regardless of where the money spent, it all comes from the taxpayer. And so whether it's a county expenditure or a township expenditure, those monies, so the township levies the tax, and the county asks us to requisition tax money for them for the planning department. So ultimately, it's a cost that the taxpayer pays for. So in our particular regard, so we have been putting money aside in our reserves in the case that we have to do an update to our official plan, because not only do we have to do an official plan, we also have to do an update once the official plan is done to our comprehensive zoning bylaw. And so there's a couple of things that have to be done, so we have to put money aside for it. Your second question related to fees, if there is an official plan amendment, those applications come to the municipality, and the application fees are in our fees and charges bylaw. So depending on the size of the application, so whether it's a minor, a medium, or a major application, there is a fee that comes to us. We collect the application and the fee, and then also we collect a security deposit. So if there are any specialized studies that have to be done and peer reviews and those things, We collect those as per our fees and charges bylaw that we currently have that council approves. So, but the application is made here. Now going forward, I've not sort of delved into the process about whether or not that fee, because it's a county OP, will be paid to the county. I've not been, I don't know whether they've worked out those mechanics at all, Counselor. So, but that's how we deal with things with our local OP at the present time.
Just if I could follow up just quickly on the application process. So if I'm understanding what I'm hearing, so even though we are operating within the county OP, the application process would be still filed to the township
So I'm
as an OPA application, I guess.
so under our current,
I'm just looking for a red tape sort of efficiency savings concept.
thank you, thank you, Councillor. So the application would be made, so under our current policy, gets made at the municipality level. And so that application comes here, they get their planning advice and their assistance, and if there's a pre-consultation requirement, it happens here at the township level, and we collect the fee. Going forward, I have not had a conversation and about how those applications would come forward under the new OP. You know, I would maybe look to you know, Mr. Randall or that about how that might happen, whether or not the county, where the applications would go directly to the county and then we're just a stakeholder. So Mr. Mayor, if you would allow me to ask that question of Mr. Randall.
Can you answer that one, Kent?
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor Taylor, and thanks, Greg. To Councillor Allen, so the way that it works now in the other lower tiers that have an integrated OP with their local plans with the county OP is that you pay a flat OP fee directly to the county. There are local, so there's two levels of official plan amendment. There's an amendment that you could make to the county-wide OP. That's just the general county policies that affect us as well, or the township of Otonabee-South. And then there's also the local plan amendments that have their own set of fees. So you would pay one direct, if you're an applicant, you're paying one direct fee, and it is borne by the applicant. So the applicant pays the fee to the county. The county requires like the township requires a peer review or reimbursement deposit, usually in the range of $5,000 to $10,000. And so if it's the way that it's set up now, the township of Otonabee-South, as Greg had said, the fee is paid to the township because you're amending the township's OP rather than the county's OP. Even though, again, even though they're local plan policies, they're part of that same document, the county document. So you have to think of it that way, where you're amending that document, the county is taking the fees. If you're amending our document, we're taking the fees.
Did that answer your question, Mark?
I think so. So just one other point of clarity, Kent, possibly. So the application goes to the county, and if it's specific to, for lack of it, the flavor of the township, the township specific items that are in the OP, they would deal with it directly from the county. Is there room, or is there? Am I looking at that correctly, where you know, the township has a specific OP items that relates to that township? Does it then come? Is there any other mechanism there, or is it still dealt with at the county with comment from the township, I guess I should say?
So yeah, so the way that it works is the township will host the public meeting,
Right, okay.
For the OPA. But it's the township is not, so you as a council are not making a decision at that public meeting. You're just hosting the public meeting. There's a representative from county council that sits in the audience. And then whatever your recommendation is, it goes to county council for ultimate approval. Adoption and approval. You don't adopt it. So now the way that it works now is you adopt your own official plan amendment, but you only adopt it. It needs to be approved by the county. So in this other system, you host a public meeting, but you're only making a recommendation for adoption and approval.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kent. Councillor Powers, you had your hand up, Nick?
Thanks, Mayor Taylor. I just sort of, I guess, following on the same line of thoughts and questioning as Councillor Allen is I'm really trying to understand from a resident's perspective, where are the benefits in either time, effort, or money for one or the other? And so just listening to Kent's sort of explanation as to how that process works, it seems like in some cases they would be going to the county, in some cases they would be going to the township, and you would have to determine the individual would have to probably contact the township to determine which one goes to the county, which one goes to the township. I guess I'm still trying to determine and understand where is the benefit here from the staffing or from the residents' perspective, because I will say that I was expecting that should we join the county, that there would be some savings to the resident, either from a financial and or a, we'll call it a red tape sort of approval process where it's a little more streamlined. From what Kent just described to me, maybe that's not the case. I guess maybe I'll ask Kent, is it fairly straightforward once the residents have sort of once we've outlined it and we've got it sort of ironed out, for lack of a better term, for residents to understand that process, what goes to the township, what doesn't?
I wonder, Kent, maybe before you, Mr. Mayor, if I could sort of clarify one clarification before Kent to the councillor. So in under our current environment, okay, the county, so we have a local plan. There are three townships, I believe it is, Kent, or 4 townships that currently do not have an official plan. And so the process he just described to you was what currently happens. Okay, so so currently that application for an official plan amendment, if it comes to our council, and then we hear it, we have the public meeting, the hearings, we collect the fees and everything. For those municipalities that do not have that do not have their own OP, that application goes to the county, okay? And that particular application, then the fees are paid to the county, and then that public meeting is held in that particular community at the township council, and they make a recommendation to the county for the approval. So that's the current system. So if we go to the new system, that all of the applications would go to the county, and all of those particular matters would be dealt with by the county, and that all of the townships would follow a similar process, and that they would host public meetings where recommendations are being made. I think, Kent, is that sort of clarify about what we do now versus what we might do in the future?
Right, and just for I think Councillor Powers, your question about the understanding as to who's making which decision, I will say, to be honest, when I'm working, because I work in all the counties as a consultant. I have private clients in all of those townships that have those integrated plans. It's very difficult for people to understand, because it's when you're having the public meeting and you're saying, well, there's no decision made at the public meeting, they're just making a recommendation. It's hard for people to grasp. I think that's probably more related to the fact that it's a complex process anyway. Even in the process that we have now in OSM, where you are adopting the OPA, it's not finally approved until it goes to the county council. I think that whole process is still, somewhat difficult for some people to wrap their heads around. But I will say that typically an official plan amendment isn't going forward just on its own. It's going forward usually with a companion zoning bylaw amendment. So usually those two are heard at the same time at the local municipality, and council will make a decision on the zoning bylaw amendment. They can approve that. It's not in full force and effect until the OPA is approved, but they still have the power to approve that. So typically that's what happens. So it's almost, they're kind of, nothing's necessarily changing in terms of sort of the order of things, I guess you could say, but I'm not sure if there's necessarily any clarity in terms of who's making the decision from a layperson's perspective, I guess.
Follow up, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, just to follow up, I guess, in following up that, Ken, I think that's some good comments there. Do you generally find that the process requires less overhead or more overhead or about the same overhead? And I guess maybe from a cost perspective, have you experienced that it's similar costs? And maybe Greg can speak to that as well. Are we expecting that the resident will see no cost savings by moving to the county's official plan?
So when you're speaking about the resident, you're talking about someone who is applying for this, right? Okay.
Correct, yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. So from a pure application fee standpoint, I can't tell you right off the top of my head. I don't necessarily, just as a general comment, I don't necessarily see a difference between applying either way when we're going to do a municipality that has it or a municipality that has its own OP. It's negligible, let's say, and that's, again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I don't see any, and I'm not I'm not trying to influence council one way or the other, but I don't necessarily see a difference in terms of timing or cost with either process.
Okay, we're really not making any progress here. So what I'm going to do is ask Deputy Mayor Clark for a question, and then I'm going to make a recommendation to council, okay, to see if we can get this thing, at least get some movement on it. Go ahead, Bonnie.
So yes, I'm finding we're going a bit around in circles, but I'd just like to point out that, and it's in our package, the April 15th, 2019 report does state, however, this creates consistency. I mean, we did buy into this, so I'm having a hard time getting my mind wrapped around changing. However, creates consistency, a consistent policy framework on shared boundaries. However, this point does not take away from the ability to have township specific policies that reflect local character. And the other point that was made, bullet point in this, was there is a very large cost saving to the municipality. And I won't read the bullet points. They're there for the public to see, and we've already read them. So now I'm kind of hearing the opposite. So I'm really caught here between what to believe and what to do the best for the municipality, which is our taxpayers. The other thing is we don't have any comment. There's 4 municipalities that have been part of the county OP. How is that working? We've talked about, is there a policy to get out of Dodge if we find that it isn't working to our ability? So there, to what we want. So there is a lot of questions here before I can make up my mind. And I do understand that there was a county staff at the Cavan Monaghan meeting for councillors to ask questions. And I certainly would like, maybe I should be making a motion to that, to come back to council with the county staff so that we can ask some questions directly to them around this so that I can be clearer. So I guess I would make that motion, if I may, Mayor Taylor, that we ask county staff to come to a future council meeting so that council members can be clearer on exactly what their approach is and what we are or aren't proceeding on.
Okay, as I said earlier, I was going to make a recommendation. That was going to be one of it. So I wonder, Deputy Clerk, if you would consider adding to that motion that
Yes.
staff be directed to coordinate with county planning staff to come to a meeting to discuss this issue. Also, that staff bring back a report with a number of the questions and concerns that council have raised today, with some answers with regard to fee structure, with regards to streamlining the process, ease of getting out if we don't like it, timelines. There's just been a lot of questions here. This is the first conversation we've had, council.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to believe that there's some confusion and we're reluctant to make a decision. I absolutely agree with that. So rather than being forced into making a decision we're not comfortable with, let's ask staff to come back with some more information, including having a county planning staff attend a meeting to answer questions. And we can make a decision at a later date. But for now, certainly my suggestion is that we just maintain status quo. We don't have to do anything.
Mayor Taylor, I certainly would add that to my motion for the staff report and to have staff in attendance from the county, from the planning department. So I will amend my motion according to what you've said.
Okay, Heather, did you get all that? Okay, so Deputy Clerk has moved that motion, and essentially is to have county planning staff attend a meeting and staff provide more information. And Councillor Allen has seconded it. Thank you. We do have to move along. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you, Kent, for attending.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
And moving down the agenda, we will go right to our planner's report, which is 3 consent applications. Kent, or Ken Scullion, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. It's for consent application B122-21, B123-21, and B124-21. Purpose of these applications is to create 3 severed lots and 1 retained lot on lands located at the southwest corner of Handbridge Road and Wallace Point Road in Stewart Hall. The proposal intends to connect each lot into existing municipal water connection along Wallace Point Road with private septic assistance on each lot. The applicant has submitted a rezoning application concurrently with the consent applications. This application proposes to rezone portions of the subject property zone future development to Hamlet residential, which is required to develop single detached homes. The materials submitted to support this application have been circulated, and we're currently waiting on comments from staff and agencies for this application. There's a detail that I missed in the report. As a retained portion is on a local road, which is Handbridge Road. A new condition should be added to the recommended conditions. This new condition would be for an entrance on the retained lands to be installed to the satisfaction of the township's Public Works Department. And that's about it for me. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. So Council, Ken's report is there. He is recommending we add 1 more condition to the approval, if that's what Council's decision is. Are there questions to our planner on this? Deputy Mayor, go ahead, Bonnie.
Yes, through the mayor to Ken, our planner. Could you just elaborate more on the water system setup, if that is written in to the severance, or how we are ensured that, you know, the more people we get on these systems, the better off we are as far as fiscally?
Yes, we have been provided with 2 concept plans, 2 concept servicing plans, which were accepted with the rezoning application as well as the consent applications. Those concept plans have been circulated to the township's consulting engineer, Engage Engineering, and they are currently reviewing, and they will provide formal comments on those concepts. I will prepare a report accordingly based on those comments, and I will bring it to council for your consideration.
Okay, does that satisfy your question, Bonnie?
Well, if we go through with this recommendation, how do we marry the 2 up, Ken? I'm just...
I guess Deputy Mayor just wants confirmed that the 3 lots must hook into the municipal water system.
So that's part of the rezoning application. And on my list of recommendations, a rezoning application to the satisfaction of the township is required for final approval.
Okay, thank you.
Is this not the property, Ken, that I don't know, 6 months or a year ago, we dealt with the cost of extending the water system to hook up to these 3 lots.
I'm not sure about that, Mayor Taylor.
It's a different one? Okay.
Yes.
Councillor Powers, you had your hand up, Nick?
I did, but Ken answered it. I was curious on the same piece, which was the water system, that did we or should we have it within this that, subject to the condition that it would be hooked up to the water system? Should that be a condition here? But you're saying that we've kind of in an indirect way, we've accommodated for that? Or I guess, yeah, are we comfortable if we're not able to hook them up to the water system? Is that a situation or a concern for us?
I guess I can comment on that, is that like I said, there's a zoning zoning application that has to come forward to allow them to build homes. And we're not going to be able to issue building permits. This is just a consent. And that condition of the zoning is going to be that they have to be on municipal servicing. So that will comply to these laws.
And that has been conveyed to the applicant. Is that correct?
I have not explicitly conveyed that to the applicant, although he does know the materials have been circulated, and I believe the applicant is here tonight, so.
The applicant is at this meeting, so the applicant is hearing the message.
Yes, I am. I am aware that I will need to connect with municipal services there. That's being communicated sort of directly, well, through Ken and through Engage Engineering as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions to our planner on this report? Deputy Mayor, go ahead, Bonnie.
I will make the motion that we approve the consent applications for the 3 lots B122-21 and B123-21 and 1.
We just went on mute, Bonnie. So
yeah, sorry, I had my finger on pause. So I'm making the recommendation with the understanding that these lots will be hooked up to the municipal water system.
So the motion is to approve the 3 applications, and the approval will be subject to these 3 conditions that are listed, and the 4th condition that their planner has recommended, which is a entrance permit for Hambridge Road for the retained portion.
Correct.
Correct? Okay. So that's the motion the deputy mayor has put on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howie is seconding that. Discussion on the motion? Any questions? Call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, moving down now, we have Fire Chief Brian has been waiting patiently to present the 2021 annual report. And I think council is all well aware that this will be Fire Chief Brian's final annual report presented to council.
Very good. Good evening, Mayor Taylor and members of council. I have supplied for your perusal and reading of the annual report for 2021. I will endeavor to just give you an overview of the report. I'm hoping that everyone's had a chance to do that and read it and entertain questions as they come up. I'm going to start with the executive summary, just some of the notes that are in it, because it covers a couple of topics included in the complete report that's attached. So it's important to put into perspective the unprecedented times that we operate and continue to operate in under the world pandemic of COVID-19. And Mayor Taylor, you declared a state of emergency, redeclared the state of emergency January 14, 2021, and we continue to operate under that. Through our emergency management and program and our municipal emergency control group, we've all played parts in the precautions and prevent the spread of the horrific disease. Our fire department personnel continue to respond to all types of emergencies with the potential of exposure to themselves on every call. They are to be commended on their commitment and bravery in keeping us all safe. I will continue on with some of the effects of the to our core services and and the fact that the Otonabee-South Monaghan Department of Fire and Emergency Services are designated as essential service in our municipal business continuity plan. And we have the continue to provide the emergency service response during the pandemic. It just came up in a meeting with the fire marshal's office a week ago that certain municipalities were even trying to opt out of the local mutual aid plans to prevent their people from being exposed firefighter to firefighter on calls. So we're not in any position or any stress to do that in Peterborough County. Under administration, we've increased with the increased spread of the new COVID-19 Omicron variant in the fall, we've had to close the office doors again. And our offices are closed to the public at this time. We conduct business via the internet, phone, or by appointment as remotely as possible. And the duties governed by the corporate COVID-19 safety plan, which includes policies for physical distancing and wearing of personal protective equipment. Under training, regular training during the year had to be interrupted and at times even suspended due to the identified risk by the Peterborough Public Health, and training activities are subject to the protection and the operating guidelines, which add significant challenges to the delivery of practical sessions. We've had to venture into online blended Zoom sessions, teleconferences to achieve our training objectives. Similarly, in fire inspections, they were very limited due to the personal contact and restrictions. And we had to wear full PPE upon request for an inspection upon complaint or appointment during these times. Again, the same with limited public education being contacted on, but we utilize the social media and municipal publications, the newsletter to get our fire safety messages out there. During the emergency response, we had to develop new guidelines and policies and procedures to govern the responding to, and as I said earlier, the example of keeping the firefighters from contaminating each other and having a whole station go down, which did happen a couple of times in Ontario. And burn permits which were used to be issued at the municipal office during the administrative staff. We now can issue the burn permits by internet, mail, and telephone through the administration and the fire department. So we've been able to take action to protect ourselves there as well. So in the emergency response and operations, we responded to 504 calls for emergency help in 2021. And this identified a 44 call increase over the previous year. And the grand total of individual station responses was 825. So 825 times the year the doors opened on the fire hall, and we had a response, whether in support of the initial station or not, that it was combined totals that we were looking at. The emergency responses required time-wise was 5,351 person hours from the department's volunteer staff. We continue to be under contract with the City of Peterborough Fire Services for our call taking and during our emergency responses and the support via radio. That contract, I believe, comes up in another year for the emergency dispatch. So that'll be something we'd have to look at and be ready for in the near future. The technological interoperability framework, or TIF, which was the simultaneous dispatch for ambulance services. There's a new interface that's being built, and that particular program is not in service right now. And hence some of the challenges that it looked after with the simultaneous dispatch of fire and EMS have come back to be realized again. But they were looking for that. I spoke to Peterborough Fire today. They're expecting that TIF program to come back online sometime in early February, so it shouldn't be too long. Another area that I need to speak to you is make you aware of the paging services. The County of Peterborough Fire Services, including the Township of Otonabee-South Monaghan, have utilized under contract the service of task page communications for many years. Our current paging services rely on this third-party supplier, as well as the messaging services of Who's Responding app that's in our through Fluent IMS in our phones. That's the built-in redundancy of the two. We received a notice on November 26, 2021, that the effective July 31st, 2022, the regional paging system through task page will be decommissioned. So the Peterborough County Fire Chiefs have formed a committee to investigate options to replace the services of task page, and we'll bring a report forward to the Peterborough County Chiefs Association outlining the options available in early months of 2022 to provide time to make informed decisions for the future and notification. This has been an unplanned, it was right out of the blue. We had no idea that there was an issue. So it's going to be a major issue in front of the fire services, but I have every confidence in Steve Brockbank from Trent Lakes and Chuck Pedersen from Darrow Dummer are the lead on the two and very versed in communications. So hopefully they can come back with some good news. Getting into the responses, medical responses represent 65% of the total. They went up 30 out of that 44 this year. And while the volume of medical calls went up, the percentage stayed the same for the medical calls and the overall totals. Fire related went up by 2%, and motor vehicle collisions went down by the 2%. So we balanced out. For the fire related responses, the department responded to 79 related incidents. Out of 30 were structure fires or structure related fires. The total value of structures involved in those was $10,725,000, and the loss to the structure due to fire was $444,000. The amount saved by the fire services says $10,281,000. Injuries from fire, and there was this year we had one fire death, unfortunately, of a young person in the Stewart Hall area, and there was an injury at the same fire to one of our firefighters. So that we went many years without any injuries or fire deaths, and we had the two come in this year. I already talked about the medical responses and the 65% of the volume, and the monthly statistics of the calls being up 44. We did, as our response property classifications and tracking the responses, we are able to then assign our fire public education and our fire prevention activities to the identified need. Class C or residential occupancies remain our primary risk at 73%, and that's where we target our fire prevention activities. During the personnel and training, we have a full roster of 82 personnel, which includes the fire chief and also the deputy fire chief and the suppression and personnel for inclusive of the 8 recruits hired just in December of 2021. We try to hire late in the year because the recruit course starts in January, so we don't have that downtime between the two. 2 of the 8 recruits that were hired came to us with already certified in the NFPA firefighter 1 and 2. In addition to the 5,351 hours accumulated during emergency response, the department personnel accumulated an extra 4,130 training hours, and the grand total of the personnel time applied being 9,481 hours. I talked about the public education program and the smoke alarm program being challenged because of COVID restrictions, and we've had to take on different ways of trying to ensure that we're getting the basis out for those programs, and we've done well through the COVID-19 and are meeting some of our primary goals. So Open air burning continues to be the 3 levels of doing for open air burning. The first level being campfire size or monitored cooking fires. The next one is fire permits, which allows you to burn at a cubic meter at a time. And the third one is an approved burn, which is by the chief fire official, that is commonly used for farming purposes or clearing of land and brush from, well, on a farm, they get special permission to burn larger fire. So in the COVID adjustment, in an effort to reduce potential risk during the pandemic, the requirement for person-to-person issuance of burn permits was suspended. And in order to compensate for that, we, as spoke before, we're able to do burn permits over the phone or through the internet and keep our residents happy burning what they need to burn in a year. So, brings us to the 2021 achievements. There's a list of 10 there. The first, the sale of the old fire station number 2. 2, the sale of the fire services tanker 2. 3, the replacement of Rescue 3, which I've just received pictures of, and it's coming along very well. I'm very happy with the progress in the recent week or two. Number 4, continued with the requirements for the meeting the fire underwriters for our tanker shuttle accreditation. 5, continued towards completion of the radio system to move towards the new digital platform. Meet the legislative requirements for public education and smoke alarm, meet the legislative requirements for fire inspections and code enforcement, and maintain the Peterborough County mutual aid plan, which I've just stepped down as the fire coordinator, and that's been taken up by the chief in Cabin Monaghan. And continued with the annual replacement program of personal protective equipment, and meet the legislative requirements for our emergency management program, including the annual training, exercise, and municipal emergency plan control group. So I can walk you through the next few pages, and they just an overview of them. They're pretty self-explanatory, and what they are is the supporting data that I just went over in the executive summary, and just lays it out. So the first page, on page 11, is the organizational structure for the department, or the org chart. On page 12, we have identification of the fire station response areas laid out in the different colors and labeled. Also on page 12, response per the individual fire station area where that data comes from, the 825 responses per, and the 504 total incident numbers. On page 13 talks about the operation summary, and it identifies a couple of things that weren't in the summary, and it's the average about 10 minutes and 5-second average response time, which is, I continue to say, for a volunteer department, that's excellent to be able to meet that. The dollar values are there that we talked about. The average cost per incident, $219.88. It also identifies the death to the injuries to the injury to the personnel and the death to the civilians, which is auto aid agreements. There was 13 activations with Asphodel Norwood, Darrow Dummer 22 activations, Cabin Monaghan 1 going our way, 1 going their way, so it was a wash. Mutual aid, the mutual aid activations is we had 1 with Asphodel Norwood, 7 with Cabin Monaghan, 2 with Darrow Dummer, 1 with Selwyn, and 3 with Trent Lakes. Mutual aid activation that we initiated was 6 activations, and they were done through the SRU and the grass fire, a house fire, and a rescue. The next page on 14 talks about the response type and the classifications, and the 79 related fire out of those totals, which represents 16% of the total call volumes. Our response type of 10-year comparison, And if you look at that, you can see, as Mayor Taylor spoke to, as we started this evening, that noticing that the continual rise in calls and the volume that's there is certainly stands out when you put it in a chart over the past 10 years. Just continually goes up. In that chart, you can see the medical calls are the ones that have been aggressively going up, but through this year, there's many of the other categories went up by 3, 4, 5, 6%. So response by property classification, we talked about it in the summary. The 79 incidents out of the 30, 16 were found to be false alarms, and then we chart them, the fire related calls, and what they go to as far as property classifications. So for assembly occupancies, there's 13% of the total. Healthcare, we don't have any. Class C residential, 73% of our total call volume. And as you can see the pie chart below, that represents the biggest piece of the pie. And that's why we use this information to target our annual programs. The 5-year summary comparison, again, is much the same as the other charts. It just goes over the monthly by month, and in this particular year, each month, so pretty much every month had a rise in the call volumes per that month. So. Medical responses over the past 15 years, and you could see on page 18 the continual ups and downs, and it just escalates, and that's indicative of our population and our demographics, and the increase in population comes the increase in emergency calls. Page 19 talks about our training division. The Eastern Ontario Emergency Training Academy has been recognized now as a rural training center for or an RTC for the Ontario Fire College. The Ontario Fire College, in its bricks and mortar up in Gravenhurst, was closed this year, and now the province relies on you to develop and have an RTC for you to make your training and certifications that you need to meet the criteria for. So we're very fortunate to have Norwood already in place. And the fire prevention in page 20, it just gives you the totals of the inspections and the property classification those inspections were done on, and the follow-up inspections for that. So 32 and 21 were the two that and that was hampered by the COVID. I'd like to be a lot more aggressive in fire prevention activities and stop fires before they start. The protection of our people is the main thing. So it goes on again to talk about on page 21 about open air burning. I've covered them in the 3 different ways of the burning and the permits that can take place. 22 talks about public education. And that is, again, promoted through the website, social media, and the township newsletter, and the challenges of trying to convey to the schools. A lot of our public education is to the seniors complexes and to the schools that we care for. So our smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarm program has been basically suspended to what we used to do. We used to do a door-to-door campaign. And of course, during COVID, that's not considered to be appropriate, that you'd be going into people's homes and transferring COVID maybe around, or catching COVID around. So we'll only go into the homes under emergency situations. And so, and the outlook for 2022, some of the strategic initiatives were the delivery of Fire Rescue 3, delivery of Fire Pumper 4, received the results of the CRA within the master plan. There's a meeting tomorrow regarding that. Continue in the requirements of the next accreditation process for the fire underwriters for our tanker shuttle accreditation. Finalization of department's radio upgrades to the digital platform. Remove and revise, review and revise the enhanced remote smoke alarm program. Try and get things back on track. Development of the public education program to support the virtual instruction. So we're going to move into the new media for trying to teach the same as the schools have had to do for our public education program, do it virtually online. Continuing the 911 civic addressing sign maintenance program on year 3. I've noticed a lot of the signs, it doesn't take long for them to be bent and pointing in every direction. You sometimes wonder whether you're making a difference until you don't do it for 2 or 3 years and it's starting to look pretty shabby. Continue with the annual replacement of the personal protective equipment under our 10-year replacement plan. Meet the legislative requirements of emergency management program, including training, exercise, and the municipal emergency plan, and review the 2023 fire capital asset plan. That pretty much covers everything, Mayor Taylor. If there's any questions, I'd certainly try to answer them for you or find the answer for you.
Thank you very much, Ted. As usual, it's a very well done report. It's got a wealth of information in it, and I'll open it up for questions. Deputy Mayor, go ahead, Bonnie.
Yes, just a couple of things, and certainly the one alarming thing was the paging, which Chief Bryan spoke about. So we'll certainly await that report back to us. The other thing, just as Ted has said, the Eastern Ontario Emergency Training Academy in Norwood is very vital to our organization. It's in close proximity and easier access maybe than other communities. And the county continues to support that with a grant, which we will, in my opinion, keep going on. It is very, very vital. And the other thing, Ted, the MVAs weren't up a lot, but I think that may be an indication of COVID and not the number of cars on the highways. And I think we will likely see that spike once we get through this COVID as well. As you state, we are busy and it just keeps going up. So anyway, thank you, and a very comprehensive report, as the mayor has said.
You're welcome. And that's a very good point. I can remember standing on County Road 2 going, where's all the vehicles when they had the lockdown for stay-at-home policies? It made a big difference. There wasn't near the vehicles on the road. Well, there wasn't any vehicles on the road. So that could have had a real effect on the MBCs for sure.
Okay, Councillor Allen, I think, Mark, you had your hand up.
I did, Mayor Taylor. Thank you, Mayor Taylor. And again, Ted, congratulations on filing your last report, I guess, with council in this manner anyways. Very comprehensive and always appreciated. So thank you for that. Quick question on the, I guess you can combine training and I guess, inspections as one. And has there been much discussion, I'm sure there has, around the province, around our region, on how we might make that work? And if COVID, I mean, I'm hoping things aren't delayed much longer and we start to move forward and some of that stuff can come back online. But during those times with down, it's definitely probably, it's a bit concerning, you know, that without certain inspections. And I think you mentioned, you know, fire prevention is the first and foremost, the first step towards stopping fires. But was there any discussion on moving forward how that might look if we aren't moving out of sort of the conditions that we're living in right now for a little while? I would like to kind of understand that, and if there was provincially any discussions or locally.
So we need to meet our provincial mandate, which is request a complaint for any and all fire inspections. So if there's a threat to life or anything, a neighbor or whatever, you can ask for an inspection, and we will put our PPE on and we will go and do those inspections. we make sure that nothing is left unsafe. And we were to a house just last week where we ended up putting in six combination smoke alarms and CO calls, CO alarms at the, make sure that particular very large house was very well protected before we ever left. So anything that's deemed to be an emergency, I call it an emergency. We make sure that it's done. We leave no house unprotected.
Thanks, Ted. And again, congratulations on the upcoming retirement, and much appreciated the service you've provided. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Powers, Nick, did you ever hand up?
I did, yes, thank you. Ted, as always, very thorough and good report. I had similar questions to the deputy mayor as well as Councillor Allen. Just another question. I'm curious from maybe the 30,000-foot view. What do you see as sort of challenges as we move into 2022 and maybe into 2023? You know, either moving out of COVID or coming, you know, staying in COVID for a bit longer. Do you see things that are challenging to fire services either within our township or in the industry as a whole moving into this new year?
Well, I can remember when the SARS pandemic hit and we all gowned up and wore masks and triple gloves, and that was to be the new norm. We were supposed to do that forever and a day after that as part of the future plan for, and here we are in COVID, and we're reinventing the wheel that we started before. It is going to come to the fact that there's going to be certain precautions and PPE we have to wear for a long time, and keep our people safe and be able to supply the service. As far as some of the challenges for training, my understanding through the Ontario Chiefs Association and the conversations that they're having with the provincial government, that mandatory certification is going to be dropped on us very shortly. And that might be a concern during these times, but our provincial government seems to be listening to that side of things again. So.
And sorry, just to follow up on that, Ted, in terms of certifications, can you just sort of elaborate on certifications and what that implies?
Yeah, it's the NFPA standards and the certification to those particular standards. So firefighter 1 and 2 is, and hazmat awareness and operations is a requirement to be certified as a firefighter in Ontario. We already, we in OSM, and many of the rest of Peterborough County, with the advantage of having Norwood there, are certified. We've been certifying our people now for 10 years, but there's many municipalities throughout this province, and I suggest more to the north and to the northeast, and that don't have facilities to adequately do that, or the finances to do it. It's going to be quite an experience to budget process when they have to start certifying from scratch. We'll have about 6 recruits this year that'll come out of Norwood certified. So, and that is the same program and the same certification that a student from Sir Sanford Fleming sits in the classroom in the same building and uses the same facility to achieve their certifications as they want to enter into the fire service. So.
Okay, great. Once again, thanks. Great report. Appreciate it, Ted.
Thank you.
Any other questions to Fire Chief Brian on this report? If not, go ahead, Bonnie, another question?
No, not a question. A motion to receive the report.
Thank you very much. I was going to ask for that. A motion by Deputy Mayor to receive this annual report, and it's seconded by Councillor Howie. All in favor? That is carried. All right, Ted.
Deputy.
Ted,
Deputy.
Yep.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Oh,
Thank you. So just in a follow-up to that, I would like to make a motion On behalf of OSM council members, we would like to recognize Chief Ted Bryans for the unprecedented years of professional and personal dedication he has brought to the position of OSM Fire Chief. His career has spanned some 46 years and 8 months. He has emulated leadership and respect when carrying out his position as our fire chief. Our community has gained respect locally, provincially, and indeed nationally due to Chief Bryan's commitment. Therefore, OSM Council would like to officially thank Chief Bryan on behalf of our community and indeed our entire council. Thank you again, Ted, for these many, many years. So if I could make that motion, and I will pass that to you, Heather.
There's
So
a,
you have
there's a
it.
motion on the floor and it's going to be seconded by Councillor Allen. Very nicely done, Deputy Clerk. Call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. I have a couple of
It's
comments.
still-
Ted, sorry.
If I may just add, it still doesn't beat a party though, but since we couldn't have a party, the second best thing.
Oh, there's going to be a party somewhere. Don't you worry about that. Ted, you can go ahead. You've got a few words to say.
Yes, I do. I wish to express a sincere thank you to all members of municipal council, administration, and staff to their continued support in providing us with the tools and resources they allow to perform when we're called to duty. In addition, my sincere gratitude for allowing me to serve you and our community as a firefighter, a training officer, a captain, a deputy fire chief, a district fire chief, and fire chief. It is it truly has been an opportunity of a lifetime, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted. I can tell you that the members of council, staff, and the residents are the ones really that are offering thanks. Now, I don't want you to turn off your screen. That's the problem with a Zoom meeting. and I'm not a big fan of messy, teary farewells, especially at a Zoom meeting. But I do want to say it, Ted, sincerely, that it has been a pleasure to work with you, both professionally and to get to know you personally. You have been a pleasure to work with. This is, I think, the 18th annual report you presented to me. And many more to other councils. I was trying to do the calculations. This could be somewhere 200 to 300 council meetings you've attended. It's hard to know. But really and truly, Ted, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. Now you have earned this retirement. I want to make sure that you go out and spend it wisely. So good night. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, council. We will move down now to the bylaws. Could I get a motion, please, that bylaw 2022-06, 07, and 08 be read a first time? Got Councillor Allen and Councillor Powers. All in favor? That is carried. I would ask the clerk to review the bylaws, please.
Bylaw 2022-06 is being a bylaw to appoint a new fire chief. Bylaw number 2022-07 is being a bylaw to appoint community emergency management coordinators for the Township of Otonabee-South Monaghan. In this one here, the only change is appointing the new fire chief as a CEMC. Currently, the CAO and myself are alternate CEMCs. And bylaw 2022-08 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 2021-12, which is in Schedule B, which is your cemetery bylaw. And the reason for this one here is with respect to OREG 258-21, which stipulated new fees for cemeteries. There was some wording changes. I did circulate a red line version to show you the differences between the new fee schedule and the old fee schedule.
Okay, very good. Any question to the clerk on these bylaws? Seeing none, could I get a motion, please, that bylaws 2022-06, 07, and 08 be read a second and third time, signed, sealed, and the corporate seal attached. I'm seeing Councillor Powers.
Okay, I had a question if I can, Mayor
Oh,
Taylor.
sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, Nick. I didn't see it. Go ahead.
That's okay. It's actually a question to our clerk. Heather, the fee schedule, you said that those are defined. Those are not fees that we have come up with, correct? Those are predefined. Okay,
Yes,
okay,
so Mayor
thank you.
Taylor, Councillor Powers, yes, you are correct. They are mandated through the province and through VAO, which is Bereavement Authority Ontario.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, Council, what really helps if you have a question is if you use the hand function, you know, where you raise your hand, it shows up on the screen, and I can really see that. So it'd be a good habit to get into if we can try and do that. I don't know how much longer we got Zoom meetings in our in our history, but we while we do it, it does help. Are there any other questions from members of council to the clerk on these bylaws? Seeing none, I'd like a motion, please, that the 3 bylaws be read a second and third time, signed, sealed, and the corporate seal attached. I'm seeing a hand up. Deputy Clerk, do you have a question?
No, I was responding to you asking to use our hands for the bylaws. So maybe you
Okay.
just want them for questions, is that?
Questions.
Okay,
right.
sorry
Yeah.
about that. I was
Yeah.
trying to follow your
All right, thank you.
guidelines.
So the mover was Deputy Clerk and the seconder was Councillor Howie. A little confusion here. All in favor, please. Carried. Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our new fire chief. Our bylaws just appointed you. Chuck, welcome. I know you've been sitting waiting silently in the wings, so to speak. This council meeting took a little longer than it. I don't want to scare you. It took a little longer than I thought it would. But we had a couple issues that deserved some time, and we devoted to them. But anyway, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I had the opportunity to get up last week and meet a number of your staff, and I was very impressed and very happy to be up there. So thank you very much for your confidence.
You're welcome. And yeah, I know you had the opportunity to meet with some fire department staff, which was invaluable, I would expect. And Greg, I believe we have a press release going out tomorrow regarding the appointment. You're on mute.
Yeah, there I am here. So actually, it just got sent out. So the council will see it, and the staff just will see it. And I believe that this evening that we'll make arrangements for it to be posted. So.
Okay, very good. Okay, moving down now to correspondence. There's a request to designate VON week. It's councilor's pleasure. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I would like to dedicate the week of May the 23rd to recognize the Victorian Order of Nurses that have done and continue to do a great service for our community.
So moved to support by Deputy Clerk. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Allen, the second. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. The town of Caledon and the town of Mono regarding POA court backlog. I'm certain this is something the province is aware of. What's council's pleasure in this one? Deputy Clerk, go ahead.
To support. I mean, we see in our own area the backlog and the cost that it is to the municipalities and not getting these fines dealt with in a timely manner to our bottom line.
Yes, it is a problem. So Deputy Mayor has moved to support this motion and Councillor Powers has seconded it. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? It is carried. Thank you. There's one piece on the information package, which is just mark the date for Hiawatha First Nations. Hopefully this can take place. Yes, fingers crossed for sure. There's nothing under other matters. That's more of a statement than a question. So now I just need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Allen, Councillor Howie. We are all in favor. Thank you. Thank you, council, staff. Good night, everybody.